What is a dirty business tactic that you know and everyone should be aware of it? The "you won a TV, $5,000, base boat" scams at car dealerships. Generally, you get a flyer in the mail that says scratch off X to see if you won. You always win the biggest prize, but when you read the fine print, you actually only win the right to spin some wheel or put your name in a box for a drawing. The employee's friends and family always actually get the boat, TV, cash. Your win is just a tactic to get you into the dealership. A fun thing to do is waste the manager's time. Go to the dealership, prize flyer in hand. Find a nice car. One with all of the options. Ask for every dealer add-on they offer and tell them you don't want to waste time negotiating, you have cash. Talk to the manager, and keep going back to him/her. Insist on a test drive with the manager. Convince them you want to buy the car, and get to the paperwork phase. Then, just before you sign, inform them that they haven't sold you a car. They've sold you on the idea of buying a car. Get the manager's card and tell them you'll be dropping their card in a hat with other dealership managers' cards. A card will be selected at random and that dealership manager will be notified by mail in 4 to 6 weeks. Let them know that the actual car you buy may not be the one used in your promotion. Update: thank you kind stranger. People lie about salary, starting pay, raises, etc. all the time. Learn to play hardball. For a multi-million-dollar company, another $10-20K is nothing. My office had a lockdown on raises over 3%, and going into an annual review I learned that my boss had lied and underpaid me for the starting position. He claimed they had a $60,000 budget for the position and couldn't exceed it. I found out the last person in the job got paid $75,000. So I got an offer from a competitor for over double my current pay, knew they couldn't afford to lose me with the amount of work coming in, and slid my offer letter over to my boss during the review. They matched the offer, gave me a $10,000 bonus up front, and even cut me into a percentage of a business line. The meeting was awkward as hell, and it was difficult to do, but it's business. I know a guy who does pest control who specializes in raccoon removal. He takes the raccoons from one house in one neighborhood, then takes and releases it in another neighborhood, then waits for the people there to reach out to him to remove the raccoon from their home. If you're buying a used car, or any car for that matter, the check engine light should temporarily come on when you start the vehicle. If it doesn't, the dash has been tampered with to mask a potential issue. Dish Network's door-to-door salesman will tell you that it's fine to use your parents' name and social security number for your account if your credit prevents you from getting service. This is not okay, it's identity theft. I waited tables in a restaurant, and one time I decided to pour a cup of soup into an empty bowl. A bowl of soup costs a good bit more than a cup of soup at the restaurant. The cup filled up the bowl to the top. Yeah, you see this a lot. I'm always suspicious when different sizes come with changes in width versus height instead of both. When my grandmother was in the hospital, her landscaper and handyman both contacted me to tell me she hadn't paid them and they'd been trying to reach her and on. I'd already paid both bills from her account, and when I questioned them, they remembered real quick. Jacking Google business pages. Basically, if a Google business listing isn't claimed and controlled by a company, a competing company can weasel their way in and direct people to their business by, say, changing the phone number. There was an article recently about how drug counselors in the Philadelphia area had it happen to them. Their listing phone number was changed to an 800 number, which directed callers to an inpatient rehab facility in Florida. It was discovered when one of these counselors started noticing his patients suddenly not showing up. He called one of them and found out he was at this facility in Florida. In France it's hard to fire or lay off people, so when big companies need to clean house a bit, they move the office to a new location quite distant from the current one. In the process they reduce the office size from 50,000 seats to 30,000 because they've estimated that amount of people will resign rather than endure a 4 hours commute. But officially totally you still have your job if you want. We are not laying you off, but I need you in the office every day. or you could resign if you don't like the new location. Nestle did that, and apparently it's fairly common now for multinationals around Paris. I suspect they end up keeping a huge amount of dead wood, while valuable employees who can easily find another job in the same area do so. Seems really dumb, unless you just desperately need to trim employees and you don't care about quality. Fake claims of another house offer with zero contingencies. We were young, first-time home buyers. We found a house that we loved and was in our price range, albeit the high end of our range, but in there, nonetheless. We entered into negotiations with the seller's agent. While my husband and I were thinking the counter-offer over, we received another call from our agent saying the seller's agent received an offer from someone with no contingencies. They could pay cash and sign that day. We knew we couldn't complete with that, and our agent urged us to rush over to her office to sign their counter-offer and hope they would accept it since we made our offer first. Of course they accepted, because there was no other offer. After all this went down, we were sharing our story with family and friends, and we came to realize the seller's agency plays this card frequently. I wish my husband and I had been in a better place to fight their tactics, but we were buying in a location that didn't have many good houses in our price range. 2 years later, and we are pleased with our home, just not our mortgage. Always count every single note when exchanging currency. It's so easy for vendors, particularly smaller ones, to short bills from a stack of 100 or 1000 and claim innocence when, if called out on it. Claiming innocence is really just a scummy tactic in and of itself, cause the victim is totally inclined to believe you. If they don't, they are an asshole. If you ever get a demonstration of a service from a company, they will always use their very best, most experienced staff, but once you've signed up you might find you've got the dregs that they couldn't foist on anyone else working for you. Big Four accounting at its finest. Send in the partners to show expertise and personality. Then send in a herd of 22-year-olds to do the actual work. I worked in the collections department of Discover Card for a while. One thing they did, maybe still do, to lure customers to the Ms. offer 0% APR for the first year. People would jump on this and transfer all their debt onto their new Discover Card, and then the company would conveniently not send the first month's bill. In the fine print of the agreement, it states that if you miss even one payment in that first year, your APR will jump to 29.95%. Half of my calls were to these new customers who would then proceed to throw a fit, because they didn't ever get the bill, and I had to explain to them that it was their job to know when the bill was due, and sending one was just a courtesy extended by the company. I hated that job. It ate away at my soul. In the US, the Federal Card Act in 2010 made it a requirement to send a bill 21 days before the due date. If this was after that, they weren't just being slimy but straight up illegal. This happened to me with my student loans. Didn't get a bill until my university financial aid contacted me to inform me that I was in default. This was 6 months after I called the same office asking them to connect me with the company that I needed to pay, and them telling me not to worry, that that company would contact me when it was time. Ruined my credit score since it was the only debt I had at the time. Petco will sell you non-aquatic plants specifically for your aquarium that will poison everything in the tank. Petco is horrendous. One of the few times I've ever called a corporate office was when my wife and I walked into a Petco and noticed a tank full of rats were lying in an inch of water from a broken water bottle. We told 2 staff members who barely even acknowledged we'd spoken. The third employee was the woman at checkout, who quietly told us we should call their corporate. She seemed to be the only one who cared, including the person on the phone. Debt collectors will have detectives call you from a number that appears to be a legitimate law enforcement agency when you Google it. It's actually a spoofed caller ID using a legitimate agency's fax number. The detective will threaten arrest and throw around names of local judges. The debt collector will claim to not know the detective who left the message, but will be willing to take care of your debt. Edit time, yes, it's illegal, but it's very hard to prove, and that's why they do it. Law enforcement or courts will only call you in the case of theft, like a hot check, but will never call for an old debt. It's civil and they don't have jurisdiction. In Nova Scotia, Canada, severance pay is paid on the average of your last 30 days of pay. This means that some companies will actually reduce your hours to minimum your last month with them if they are going to lay you off. Happened to me wife. She worked for this company for 5 years, worked 35 plus hours per week. Suddenly she wasn't getting shifts. Boom, layoff notice. Happened to other folks too. Call the Labour Board. I'd cop out in Nova Scotia, but here in Ontario that's illegal. Even if she quit because she wasn't getting enough hours due to them reducing it, she'd still be entitled to pay. They cannot reduce your hours by more than a certain percent each week. Can't remember the percent, can tell you I have fought this and won. When I was in the process of moving into my current home, I transferred the title of my old home and land to my sister because she was buying it and moving in when I left. Within the next few weeks she started getting all the welcome to the neighborhood coupons and flyers. She didn't even change her address, so I assume companies track title changes with the Register of Deeds. The sketchiest was a pest control company claiming to have an existing account on the property and recommending she continue to use their services. They detailed dates and changes, referenced termites. It was all lies. All the dates shown were while I owned the property and I never even heard of this company before she received that letter. Edit, a word. Edit 2, people are prying and I don't want to give too much info, but this took place in North Carolina. I am aware that title changes are public record, but I was surprised by the speed. The small town I live in can take up to 2 months to update their online public databases. Clearly there are ways to get the info I was not aware of. Mattress stores that have the find it anywhere else for cheaper, you get your money back. Deal contract with the manufacturer to make the exact same model of bed, but with a model name specific to that store, so nobody can ever cash in on that deal. Maybe not dirty, but incompetent contractors will often way underbid jobs. So if you request a bunch of quotes, and all the bids are relatively close except for one that's way lower, there's roughly a 100% chance that guy will screw it up and you'll have a nightmare on your hands. Sometimes you get what you pay for. Also, FWTW, if a bid is high, it probably means they don't want the job. Edit, for everyone asking why you would bid high rather than just reject the job, it's considered unprofessional to just not bid a job. It leaves a sour taste in customers' mouths when you just outright don't even give them a price. Reasons you don't want the job could include: you're out of manpower and can't staff it. There's something about the job that makes you not want to deal with it. For example, fixing an air conditioning that wasn't installed right means you could be looking at a job that is actually going to take months, still not be right after you're done, and the customer could blame you, not the original contractor. No thanks. Customer is an asshole or difficult in some way. He might have non-asshole friends, however, you don't want him bad-mouthing too. So the goal is don't piss him off, but also try not to work for him either. Edit 2. Should have put this in the original comment. Sometimes they will outright steal from you or half do a job, take the money and run. They count on you being either too poor or too passive to take them to court. When finding a home for your elderly parents, set up an appointment but come in a few minutes early and say, "Don't ask if you can walk around for a quick look." The receptionist likely won't refuse you, and the salesperson won't be ready for you. These places like to show you only the stuff they want you to see when being led around by a salesperson. Chat with a resident or a staff member, they'll be the most honest with you. I did exactly this when looking for daycare for my kids. Showed up randomly one morning and asked if I could look around, without going into any rooms, just from the hallway. Yes, I told them why I was there, yes, they took down my ID. Yes, I agreed to have one of their staff walk with me, and yes, I did ask the room staff questions on my rounds. The closing down sale in the shop that never closes down. It's just in closing down sale mode continuously. I'm amazed shops are allowed to get away with this. The three-tiered pricing approach, especially for things like roofing or basement waterproofing. The contractor starts with a ridiculously high-priced quote for way more stuff than you asked for, steps down to a more moderate quote of what you wanted with a few bells and whistles, then the third quote is for what you requested. This gives you the illusion of choice and reduces sticker shock because although your requested absolute minimum service is really expensive, it's only half the cost of their recommended repairs. In high-end IT, vendors will often go dark in the months before a service contract renewal or infrastructure refresh is needed. The idea behind this is that the customer is forced to come to them, or they can come to the customer with little enough time to complete the refresh that they are either forced to make a purchase on bad footing for price negotiations or renew service agreements for an additional year at a higher rate while migrating to new gear. My school got an entirely new system for enrolling in classes and such, and we've been having a lot of problems with it. One of my teachers said the school has tried calling the company that installed it, and they've just disappeared. They can't even get a hold of this company at all. Edit, the school is University of Cincinnati, and the system is called Catalyst. An older fellow I know had a bodega and he'd put a can of cream corn on the counter by the register. This was some time ago, so the van had a price tag of 17 cents. He sold that can of cream corn to everyone who bought anything there. If they realized they were paying too much, he'd just say he thought that was their can of corn. Most people didn't notice though, and he sold that same can of cream corn maybe 20 times a day. Ex-girlfriend used to come home from the store laughing about how that Chinese lady at the corner store goofed up on her change again. Really? This woman always goofs up on 25 cents each time you go? How many times does she do that in a day/week/month? How many hundreds of dollars does she make with her poor counting? My elementary school would host a fun day every year, where there were booths, games, activities, etc. They'd get the kids to help out with various small tasks too. One year when I was about 9, my task was to help sell the little potted geraniums, 25 cents each. Well, no one was buying any of them, so I had a brilliant idea. I made a new sign that said buy one for $1, get 3 free. Those little geraniums sold like hotcakes after that. I was so proud of myself I told the principal. He did not approve, though he let me do it anyway. It's a wonder I didn't turn into a little Gordon gecko, probably only the bonitis kept it in check. When moving out of a rental apartment/house, make sure to take lots of pictures and ask the owner/landlord to do a walkthrough with you. Video the walkthrough. That way if they do not give you all your deposit back, you have something to take to court versus a he said which you generally lose. When you turn in cable/internet equipment, make sure to get a full receipt showing what they took in and the date it was received. Scan this and email to a couple different email accounts. Comcast and others are bad about losing the equipment a couple years later, after you forget, and then billing you. See ya. Every month and every 4 weeks sound similar, but are different. Paying every month gets you 12 payments, every 4 weeks gets you 13. Edit, thanks for top comment, just something my dad taught me when I first got a debit card. Smile. Yep. Gold's Gym changed their pricing structure a few years back to bill you $18 bi-weekly instead of $35 per month. At a glance, it looked like a small $2 per month increase, but in reality it was $2 per month more, plus 2 extra payments per year. I complained and they kept me on the previous plan, saying I was grandfathered in since I'd had a membership for like 5 years. Edit, it's only a $1 per month increase. I suck at math. Edit number 2, to clarify, I meant to correct the part where I said it looked like a small $2 per month increase. $18 times 2 equals $36, up from $35 per month, looks like a $1 per month increase, but it's that plus the 2 extra payments per year, plus the extra opportunities for them to collect late fees. I'm very hungover, please give me a pass on this one.